Good morning, college baseball fans. Jake, AJ, how's it going this morning?
Oh, pretty good. Got my fix in for college baseball last night. Ready to do it all again today.
So you got that pretty new jersey on. That's outstanding. Let's
Yes,
go.
sir. Repping the best coast.
Yeah,
Hey,
Jake added another team.
I
So
know. I
he
just
can
like the
join on.
colors. Orange
We
is
got
like my color this year.
we got lots of room. We got lots of room. What'd you guys notice from last night's games? I know for me, Cooper Jerpy going in that horrible rain last night, getting the win against Oregon. Big job there. Two rain delays, one 70-minute to start the game, and then another 15 to 20 minutes there about the fourth inning. That's got to be tough when you're a pitcher going out there and having to deal with that.
yeah, if I remember correctly, the 70-minute one was before first pitch. So he was already like warm, ready to go. And then they had to basically shut him down and get him going once they knew estimated start time again. So that has to be insane. I wonder how many more pitches he threw pregame than he's used to throwing.
Yeah, I mean, he threw 103 in the game, and they pulled him in the seventh inning there because I feel like he threw so many more pitches. And, that 20-minute delay, and then they had a big 15, 20-minute inning where they were getting walked and scored the two runs. It That's a tough thing to do. And it was freezing cold. It was like 44 degrees here, and it was pouring rain. It was brutal.
He still
Yeah, but
shoved.
yeah, I
Yes.
did. I was gonna say that. I guess when you're playing against your rival, there's a little bit extra, motivation to get the job done. Maybe a little more adrenaline. So I think it was definitely a little easier, throwing 100 pitches off 2 delays against Oregon, as
Yeah.
opposed to Arizona State or USC or somebody like that. But the Beavers looked really, really good on defense too. I
Yeah.
think if they play like this, I don't think there's a team that can beat maybe Parker Messick at Florida State, but when Europe pitches like that, they're gonna win a lot of games.
Speaking of Parker Messick, yeah, he had another great performance last night, 12 Ks. Can't get the win, gets 0 run support.
Just
They're
wasted.
playing Boston College and they can't get runs against Boston College. Like, what is wrong with this Friday night team for Florida State? They cannot
The
get runs.
the walk-off walk too.
Yeah,
I'm
it
sure
just makes
all 12 Boston College baseball fans were going nuts there at the game.
it just makes you feel for them when you show up and you're like Friday nights. If you haven't been watching Cooper Jerpy and Parker Messick, you're missing some of the best pitched college baseball that there is right now. But neither one of those guys are getting very much run support, and it's pretty infuriating if you're a fan of either one of those ball clubs.
I know, and it feels like there's a lot of teams in the country too that are, getting the opposite treatment where they're banging the ball around the yard and not getting that Friday night pitching. So when you get
Yeah,
somebody like Messick and they just, destroy it, I bet that's even more infuriating because I mean, Florida State just looks lost at the plate at times. They really don't have approaches and they just kind of go up there swinging. And when you have good pitching like that, to where you only need 2, 3, it's really really frustrating. I'm sure for Messick.
Yeah, Florida State's that weird team where their offense will go cold for 2 or 3 games, and then they'll have the exact same approach, and the pitch will just mitch over the middle of the plate, and they put up 10, 12 runs, and they're like, oh, this is a good approach. It's like,
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
it's like, it's not really a good approach. The pitcher's just making mistakes. Every other at bat where the pitchers make quality pitches, they're getting themselves out. It's
yeah. And it's ACC. ACC has pitching, and so the problem is when you're a free swinging team, pitchers realize that they pick up on that, and then they stop throwing in the zone. And I feel like that's what Florida State's gone through this year is that they have free swung way too much. Not a lot of walks down there, and just not a good approach, like you guys said.
speaking of pitching, did y'all see the ECU Memphis game yesterday?
No.
Um, CJ Mayhew for ECU 9 no hit innings.
Ooh.
Landon Gartman for Memphis 8 no hit innings. The game ended 4-1 in the 13th inning. Both starters threw no hitters,
Oh wow.
and neither one of them got the decision. Neither one of them
Both
got
no
the win.
decisions.
Yep.
Oh jeez.
What a battle. That's 17 innings of no hit ball there. Like,
You got to feel for the fans too. I feel like that's the most exciting part of baseball is getting people on base.
super fast game. You get to sit there and watch some good pitching in a super fast game. So that's not a bad thing necessarily.
Yeah, it was absurd. I saw that and I was like, it's like ECU posted something. It was like he got a hit, and I was like, okay, we're gonna go check this out because I'm pretty sure this game's been going on for a while.
You're like,
And
that means something.
yeah, it was like the bottom of the ninth inning or the top of the ninth. They finally got their first hit, and it was like, this
Wow.
isn't right.
Wow. That is a interesting game. I know last night. The Beavs didn't hit much. Oregon didn't hit much, but the Beavers took 11 walks and had 1 hit by pitch. And that was really the difference in the game. And like you said, Jake, defense and pitching can win ball games even if your hitting is slumping.
Speaking of that, I watched that LSU-Alabama game last night, and LSU had a really, really gritty win. It just feels like every single win LSU gets is really earned just with the way they play defense, kind of, move the ball around. It just feels like every single game that they win, it's like, wow, they shouldn't have won that game. I feel like they stole that one, came back and win it. So it was, I said this too when they stole that game Sunday against A&M, that LSU is a really gritty team. They might not have, some of the talent that like Tennessee has, but I think they're one of those teams that just never quits fighting.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Tennessee, what's going on there, fellas? Like, lose on Thursday night to Kentucky on a walk-off. Like, you can almost understand that. That happens. Everybody's gunning for the number 1 team. They're giving their best. Down 4-2 in the 8th, and now we're going to be playing that game again this morning. Did they peak too early? Does this team have enough time to turn it around and be ready to be the number 1 seed, or is this just another place where the number 1 team just kind of fails by tournament time?
Yeah, before we get into that, I do want to comment that I was rooting for them to lose, so we don't have to see those god-awful uniforms. I think this is like the 3rd shade of gray they've rolled out this year, because they looked like charcoal gray. They didn't really look black. And then the other thing, I just feel like Tennessee and Texas just can constantly just swap back and forth logos, because their hat logo that they wore, I was like, is that Texas's logo? So they need to just like each pick a font. Like someone gets cursive T, someone gets regular T, because it's very annoying. And they're both orange too, and they're both obnoxious.
Yeah, I like the hat a lot more than I like the jersey. The jersey with, I don't even know it's like almost like it's a weird metallic shade of gray, and then the light normal gray baseball
Yeah, the light
pants,
gray pants.
and the font on the jersey doesn't match the script on the hat. It was like a travel team tried too hard to be Tennessee.
That's
and then
what
you
I was
look
gonna
up.
say.
Yeah.
They looked like they tried
and that
too hard to
team
put
was
together a cool
Tennessee.
uniform, and they were like, "Hey, let me just throw all these pieces together."
And
that's not how it works.
It didn't work. It didn't work at all. The only way it could potentially tie together is if, God forbid, they had baseball pants the same shade as those jerseys. Like, that's the only way you can wear that. You either go white or you go that shade. You can't go softer gray. You can't have a grout fit out there.
I will say this, kind of the silver lining of it is because all the pictures came out during the day, and then at night it kind of looked a little bit more black. So I'm really glad they wore them at night and not on like a Sunday getaway type thing, because they would have been awful to look at for 9 innings.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, that would have been rough.
But I will say this about Tennessee, and I put some notes here down further with Vandy, how even when Vandy's winning, I feel like, they can't keep leads just because they're timid and playing too hard. I feel like Tennessee's the opposite. I feel like there's no lead that's too big for them, that even when they were playing, kind of down against Kentucky, it's like, okay, they're going to figure it out. They're Tennessee. They always figure it out. So even though they're losing these series, like, I still feel like they're the favorite. Like, I would still probably pick them to beat Kentucky, the next 10 games.
Yeah, the one thing that I would notice about Tennessee when I looked at breaking down their offense, they haven't hit the long ball nearly as much in the last couple of weeks. They have been struggling with the long ball. If they can get that back, I mean, I know they relied a little bit too heavy on it last year, and that probably cost them in the tournament. But that's been their bread and butter, is getting those home runs and getting those RBIs that way. They're really lacking in that department right now this couple weeks.
Yeah, playing in Lexington is the opposite of playing at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. You can hit a ball perfect launch angle, like 28 degrees, 105 off the bat, and you'll reach the warning track. It's just balls die there. And we saw a couple on Thursday that looked like they were just no doubters, and they barely reached the warning track.
Yeah, just can of corn.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, AJ, with the A&M game, you were kind of getting those same vibes too.
Except for the fly ball to the third baseman that went out, but it was already 12-4 at that point, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, it's one of those things. Kentucky's used to playing at that stadium. They're used to having to hit doubles and triples. Tennessee likes to lean back and see how far it goes. Well, that works in a smaller ballpark. And again, it works at most ballparks. But when it's heavy air, no wind, cold, you're not going to see the home run numbers. And that's what we've seen this weekend, at least.
And it really plays out pretty much the same now at the Chuck. It kind of is a bigger ballpark. Sometimes the wind's blowing in. It can hurt you if you rely on those home run numbers. So it's interesting to say that, because, yeah, they're going to at least get a host their regional, and if they get through into the Super, they're going to host both those at their place. They can hit home runs there, but can they hit them on the big stage?
Yeah, just kind of look ahead to Omaha. I mean, you have to feel like whoever gets to Omaha is going to have some kind of ace that'll go in and shut them down with the deep park. It'll be really interesting to see, because I feel like everybody just kind of wrote Tennessee as, the pencil-in like champion vote, and they really, I wouldn't say they struggle away from Lindsey Nelson, just because I think this was like their first loss away from Lindsey Nelson. Well, no, they lost at Minute Maid, but they're not as dominant, I've noticed, when they play away from home.
And the Woodbat game.
Yeah, the Woodbat game, and the Ole Miss one's kind of lost its luster too. We were talking about that earlier with Bama, how that Ole Miss series feels like everybody's sweeping Ole Miss, so it's really not that special. So, I mean, it'll be really interesting to kind of peel back, with Hoover and, the tournament going forward, kind of how Tennessee looks, because, I mean, they could easily get, a tough draw like Arkansas got last year and be done.
It's true. It's true. There's a lot coming in here the next 3 weeks. Be interesting to see what we can get a hold of that.
I wish Noah was here, though, so we could, he could, retract his statement how I said Kentucky was a real SEC team. He was clowning on me earlier when I said it.
I was writing off Kentucky earlier. I'm still not on that Kentucky bandwagon, but it is impressive to see them come out and really get a series that they have to have if they want to make the SEC tournament. So right now there's some teams there at the bottom that Ole Miss is right in that lane where they may not make it either if Kentucky keeps winning.
Yeah, that whole logjam of, the Mississippi, Kentucky, Missouri, South Carolina, even Alabama's kind of playing themselves into that role too. It'll be really interesting this final month, kind of who steps up and who is, finding plans to go play at the Cape.
Perfect.
Yeah. Ole Miss is in trouble.
They won last night, though.
And
it's
congratulations.
Missouri, yeah, but the asterisk.
But it's one of those things. They don't hold the tiebreaker against many teams they're going to be right there with. Like, they could very easily end up with the same record as South Carolina, and South Carolina will get the nod over them. They could easily end up with, Mississippi State. If they continue to struggle a little bit, they could end up with the same record. They won't hold the tiebreaker there. It's like, who are you going to? They have to finish hot, I think, to feel comfortable about where they are in the SEC.
I think they got to go 6-2. They got to go 6-2 because if they take the chances to go 5-3 for their last 8 games here in the SEC, they may be looking on the outside in, and that's going to be real bad news for Ole Miss fans.
And they played such a weak out-of-conference schedule, too, at the beginning. I mean, they play at LSU and then versus A&M. Those are 2 teams with lots of, ground that's still left to play for, so they're not really going to be milling it in. I don't like Ole Miss in either of those series. I don't think they're very good matchups against LSU or A&M. So they are probably – I think they're going to be the one team. I know Noah's, probably kicking sand wherever he is, talking mess about Ole Miss. But I think they're the one team that you really have to, exclude from all this conversation early because they play just too tough as a schedule. They had too weak of an out-of-conference. And, those baby blues are going to be staying home. So Liberty – I guess if you squint, Ole Miss fans, Liberty can, be your Ole Miss for a couple days.
Outstanding. Alex, I believe we've got a video from our own Clara Fuller. I believe we have a interview that she did down at the Coffee with Clara.
Yep, Clara got an interview with one of the Mississippi State Diamond girls, talk about women in college baseball. So here we go.
Clara Fuller for CWS 247, and today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the ladies of college baseball. First, I'd like to introduce one of my friends, Avery Braddock. She's actually a Diamond Girl at Mississippi State, and we're going to learn more about what that is and what they do. So, welcome to the show, Avery.
Hey, y'all. Happy to be here.
So, first, I just want you to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and all that good stuff.
Hey, so like Claire said, my name is Avery Braddock. I am a junior majoring in public relations, and I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio, so quite a ways from home.
Okay, so like I said, Avery here is a Diamond Girl for Mississippi State, and we know what that is, but for everyone out there, tell us a little bit about what Diamond Girls actually do at games or outside of games. Just tell us a little bit about who they are and what they represent for Mississippi State.
Yeah, so the Diamond Girls are there to help assist the baseball program with whatever they need. Our primary duties are actually on the field, and so we grab foul balls when they're tipped back, or when a player advances to first base, we will go and run out, grab their bat. We also bring balls and water to the umpire whenever they need it. And then some other game day duties, we will help in the merchandise tent and sell things, kind of just help with fan experience overall, make sure everybody's having a good time while at Duty Noble. And then some other things that we do, we will help the baseball team with some fall and summer camps when they're having recruits come in, or youth camps or anything like that. We help with fan day, help with cowbell yell. We're just really there to make sure the baseball program is running smoothly and see if they need any help with anything.
So y'all do a lot.
We keep ourselves busy for sure.
So like we all know, the baseball world is predominantly revolved around men. But we all know, realistically, so many women are so invested in the baseball world and do so much to promote the atmosphere that is college baseball. So tell me, what drew you to being a Diamond Girl?
So I have always been around sports and been around at Mississippi State sports specifically. I grew up a fan. My dad came here. My grandpa came here. So I've just always been around. My dad's favorite is football. So I feel like growing up I was kind of like football. And I kind of had a shift in high school, and I realized I enjoyed baseball a lot more. And so I became a baseball manager at my high school, and we worked in the press box and announced players and did walkout songs and all of that. When I came to Mississippi State for a game during high school, I saw the Diamond Girls, and I saw them on the field and working, and I was like, that is what I want to do when I get to college. It just seemed so much fun, and so I tried out as a freshman. Luckily, I made it, and I've just been doing it ever since.
Okay, so from what I understand, becoming a Diamond Girl is no easy task. So tell us what that process looks like.
Yeah, so it's kind of a 4-step process. It normally happens around September-ish in the fall. And so the first step is an interest meeting. That's mandatory for anybody who wants to try out, and you'll just get some more information about the tryout process. The next step is the test, which shocks a lot of people when they find out we take a test to make the squad. This test is basically just, common baseball knowledge and MSU baseball history. We're just trying to make sure that the girls trying out are trying out for the right reasons. If you pass the test, then you'll be invited back for a first-round interview. This interview is going to be hosted by our Diamond Girl captains and a former Diamond Girl. And it's just basic interview questions, trying to get to know you more, and just kind of get to know you, get your vibe a little bit. And then from there, you could potentially be invited back to a second-round interview. In 2019, when I tried out, this interview had Coach Rodehaver and 2 baseball players. So I had Justin Foscue and Jordan Westberg in my interview, which was super cool. Unfortunately, with COVID, we've kind of had to cut back on player exposure. So that second round interview just has the Diamond Girl captains, some people from the athletic department. From there, we take, depends on the year, anywhere from 3 to 10 girls every year, and you're in it after that.
Okay, so 2021 was a huge year for Mississippi State baseball. Mm-hmm. Obviously, our first national championship. Mm-hmm. What did it look like for the Diamond Girls in Mississippi State? What part did y'all play? How did y'all get to experience it?
Yeah, it was exciting. 2021, first College World Series win, first national championship for Mississippi State altogether. The Diamond Girls, we were last year, because of COVID restrictions, we weren't actually on the field. So we really dove into our other responsibilities. We were fully running the merchandise stores, really helping with fan experience, and just trying to be involved in any way that we could. Because we weren't allowed on the field, we actually didn't travel to the College World Series as a group, but over half of our squad went on our own or with our parents or friends, because we just really love MSU baseball, and we were like, we are not going to miss this moment. So we had a good chunk of us there, and it was kind of interesting to just experience it as a fan, because so much of baseball in my college career has been as a Diamond Girl. To just be a fan for one of the biggest moments and be in the stands with my dad and my family, it was really exciting. And then when we got back, the Diamond Girls played a part in the parade, so we were recognized there, which was really awesome.
That's so cool. So, I mean, you said that you've been around Mississippi State your whole life. So, from the past, do you have any favorite players or moments of Mississippi State baseball that you'd like to share?
Oh my gosh, well, we could be here forever. When I was little, when I was growing up, Jonathan Holder was my favorite player. He was a pitcher. I don't know why. I was just like, yep, I like him. He's my favorite. Once I got a little bit older, I obviously was partial to Jake Mangum, Elijah McNamee.
I feel like most people are.
Yes, I feel like you can't not love them. A cool experience, actually. So it was 2019. I was here for orientation, so I was about to start college. And I was here for Super Regionals with my mom, which was so fun. And that was, we were playing Stanford. If you know Jake Mangum, he was like known for his base hits, and Elijah McNamee, was known for his home runs. So they're both seniors. It was their last year in Duty Noble, and we were playing Super Regionals. Jake hit a base hit, Elijah hit a home run. We won. We went to Omaha. Such a cool experience. One of my favorite moments from college baseball. And then obviously winning the national championship. I feel like you can't.
No, you
can't beat that.
Can't top it.
You literally can't. I mean, I was crying for days. So I feel like I have so many amazing memories kind of wrapped up in Duty Noble. It's hard to pick, but those are a few of my favorites.
Well, Avery, I so appreciate you being here today. It's so cool to hear from your on-field experience, because I know most people at Mississippi State, y'all are considered part of the team for us, and so I think it's so cool that, you know, us as women get at least a little insight of what it means to be a part of this amazing program and this amazing sport. But thank you so much for coming on the show today, and a huge thank you to Strange for Your Coffee House for letting us shoot this video here today. And as always, Hail State.
Hail State! Thank you for having me.
Well, that was outstanding. Good to get into college baseball and seeing the fans and people that want to get involved anyway getting involved. So that's pretty cool down there. Glad we're done and out of the COVID stuff for the most part, being allowed to join those teams. So that'll be really nice.
Just to kind of add on to that, I remember when I was at Mississippi State, the Diamond Girls, that was probably the hardest, organization to get into. So it's kind of cool to see them, still kind of come back, because I know a lot of people really love them. It was harder than like even some of those honor societies where you have to get a 4.0. I felt like it was even harder to do the Diamond Girl.
Well, I mean, she said they got to take a test and all that stuff and know their knowledge of Mississippi State baseball. So that's difficult. I like it.
Yeah, I'm just happy that she realized she liked baseball more than football, because I think that's the right way to go.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of Mississippi State, I'm sure some people would say that they have the best rivalry in college baseball with Ole Miss. I'll let you guys go first. Jake, what do you think is the best rivalry in college baseball today?
Well, it definitely has to be Ole Miss and Mississippi State, just because they're pretty much the same people and they hate each other. 365. They would yell and scream at each other at tennis matches. I would say the best rivalry, though, of 2020 was definitely the Commonwealth Series between Virginia and Virginia Tech. It was just an electric atmosphere the entire weekend. A 2 of 3 is always, a tough thing to go into. And it'll be really, really interesting to see kind of how it grows further, because it has felt like Virginia Tech has been the little brother to Virginia for so long in baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, Virginia's been surprisingly good as a state for baseball this year. We all knew Virginia's seemingly always competing for something, whether it's a 1 seed or the ACC. That they're always competing for something. But Virginia Tech is snuck up on a lot of people, I think. In our group, at least, Jake had them first.
I did. I've had them, but I don't think I even had them that high. I always had them as around, 16. I never thought they would even be hosting a regional. And then Liberty, too, to add on. That's, a great thing for the state of Virginia. I know that Georgia, we've mentioned Georgia also having really strong, but I would say right now in terms of, top teams, Virginia has the best college baseball state.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to throw if I don't argue for Clemson, South Carolina being the best college baseball rivalry, I mean, it's a home neutral site home for each team. So both teams get to play in front of their own fans, and then the neutral site rotates. So it's either in Columbia, Greenville, or in Charleston. So it's a full, it involves the state. It involves everyone in it. And you would have talked about just hating each other. Clemson and South Carolina fans hate each other. a lot of the people who go in state, if they want to go to a state school, it's either them or College of Charleston. And College of Charleston's a bunch of people who moved from up north now. So it's a lot of you either grow up a Clemson fan, you grow up a South Carolina fan, and there are people who go to college and switch teams for whatever programs, and they still, even though they're at Clemson, they still wear Carolina stuff. Or people at South Carolina wear Clemson stuff, and it is war. It is. There is. I think South Carolina baseball. For South Carolina, it's their crown jewel, and for Clemson, baseball historically is the sport they've had the most success in. They haven't won it all. They've struggled in Omaha, but they've gotten there. I think it's like fourth or fifth most without, or it's like second most behind Florida State without winning a title. And top 10 appearances overall. It's absurd, the history between the programs and the fact that these teams for seemingly decades would meet either in regionals or supers or a couple times in Omaha. Yeah, that to me is the best rivalry.
That's fair. I mean, you guys nailed it though. I mean, really it's the fans. Fans are what make the rivalry. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Oregon State and Oregon. I believe that rivalry, yes, there was a 26-year lapse where there was no games because Oregon canceled their baseball program, but they have 189 to 169 in favor of Oregon State. Just the in-state rivalry of hating each other so much makes it a big ball game. And now that Oregon has been, rising up in the RPI and they're getting better every year, now it's turned into a thing where Oregon State's, a very good ball club and Oregon's turned into a good ball club. Now the rivalry really matters here. But the one that is, I think, swept away by most people because it hasn't been that relevant in the last, 10 years, Arizona and Arizona State have played each other almost 500 times, 255 to 221. They both have won national championships. They both have won Pac-10 and Pac-12 championships. Both ball clubs were dynamic in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. That's fallen off a little bit because Arizona State's kind of been trailing. Hopefully they can get that turned around to Willie Bloomquist. But that was a huge rivalry when I was growing up, and I remember just watching those games and be like, boy, this is real. This is baseball here. This is awesome. So, and welcome, Noah. Hello.
Yeah, we said his name too many times, so he had to show up.
You got anything to throw in there for the best rivalry? We've had, Ole Miss, Mississippi State. We had Oregon State, Oregon, Arizona, Arizona State, Clemson, South Carolina, and then Virginia, Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I think when you think of the traditional rivalries, I think Ole Miss and Mississippi State is definitely the one that immediately comes to mind. But then I have to talk about the new age. We're in a new world where we have these new powers rising up, and Tennessee is taking on not just Arkansas, they're taking on every single team in the country. Everybody hates Tennessee, and Tennessee obviously really embraces that. It's not on the field necessarily. I don't think every team is extra juiced up to play Tennessee. They might be because of the number one ranking, but I know if in 3 years Arkansas plays an unranked Tennessee, Arkansas is going to be juiced up to play specifically Tennessee. But you have people on people that I follow who like teams in the Pac-12 are celebrating Tennessee losing to Kentucky, and it's just one of those situations where Tennessee has this huge target on their back, and they're so welcoming of this everybody hates us mentality, and it's great for the sport, as I wrote about and other people also wrote about. But yeah, that's the one that I love the most about college baseball is how Tennessee fans, like it or not, have kind of come out of nowhere to like college baseball, and that's great. That's when we say grow the game, we have to kind of like when they bandwagon with their team. That's okay. But to see them all latch on like that and go after people on Twitter, almost annoyingly,
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you watch that Kentucky game and you see those empty stands, I feel like, all the bad things about college baseball. And I think an Arkansas fan had tweeted it that we really got to appreciate some of these great stadiums just because when they play in some of these unknown places, the games really do feel dead. So when you go play, at Tennessee, at A&M, Arkansas, Mississippi State, it almost adds just an extra layer because the fans are so into the games.
Yeah, I've had more Tennessee fans reach out and, want to have conversations this year, being as I cover the Beavers and love the Beavers and big Beaver fan. I was like, what is happening? This is kind of cool to actually see some fans, like you said, grow the game and want to be a part of all this and figure out what college baseball is about. And I think a lot of that also stems from their coach, Tony Vaiella. He's really built this into a powerhouse of let's go, come on guys, get going for these games. And I think that's been a big thing for them.
Yeah, he kind of has a. Oh, go ahead, AJ.
My running theory is Tennessee thrives off of conflict. And when there's no conflict created, like in this Kentucky series, Kentucky's just gone out, played their game, held Tennessee bats down, haven't poked the bear at all, and Tennessee's struggling to find that emotional drive. They can't draw off the crowd because there's no crowd. So it is, no one's doing anything to inflame Tennessee's emotions. Is that why they're struggling right now? Is that why they do so well at home, is because the crowd is just their source of energy, or whatever Alabama's celebrating after a win, or what have you?
I was actually going to say something very similar. Is I feel like the umpiring has been very good and consistent. So Tony V can't go out there and get rung to get him going again. But you kind of stole what I was going to say. But it feels like it's kind of like Tennessee always goes around looking for something. They're like, the guy with his wallet hanging out, like, come steal it. They're the UFC guy at the bar. They know that they can win any fight, so they kind of act like they can win every fight.
Yeah, and this is their first. This is the first time in program history they've been ranked number 1, and this is their first struggles of the year. So I guess we will see. I still think they are the best team in the country. I think if you'd be hard pressed to find a more complete team than what they can put together on the mound and what they can do offensively. But that doesn't mean they're invincible. Up until recently, they thought they were invincible. Their fans thought they were invincible. And now there's a little bit of a meltdown on Twitter, and they still only lost 1 game. The second game's not over. Like, you still haven't lost the series. Trust your offense, but it's their first speed bump, their first adversity. We'll see what happens.
And honestly, for me, like, looking at it on the outside of college baseball in whole, them having a little bit of struggle now might be the best thing for them. This is good to have this adversity now versus if your first adversity is in the tournament, you don't know how you're going to react. Well, here we go. We're down a little bit coming into today's game. They got to come out and see if they can come back and win that game this morning. Even if they don't, if they put up a little bit of fight and they get used to this and they're okay coming back from a loss and coming back and winning that next game, that's what's going to be key in tournament time is what do you do after a loss? I know this year the Beavers are 9-0 after they lost. They have not lost back-to-back games all year. That's the kind of team you need to be when you go into the tournament is what do you do after a loss? How do you come back after a loss? How do you handle that adversity? Having it at this point in the season might actually help Tennessee.
Yeah, what happened was Tony Vitello got word that no 1 seed has won at all since '99, and he said, "All right, we're going to go throw some games out there." So this is all by design. Don't fall for it.
Trying to dump it to Oregon State.
Yeah, maybe they'll throw UC Irvine up in Corvallis.
It's a low blow. Well, as we've been talking, tournament time. Here it is. All right, guys. 2 teams that need to win down the stretch to help themselves get right before the tournament and put themselves maybe in a position to be in the tournament or a position to do something in the tournament. Who you got, Jake?
My 2 were going to be Florida and Pitt. So Florida has State, Missouri, USC. Those are all 3 very, very winnable seasons. And I feel like Florida kind of gets, the status vote where it's Florida. They always have to get in. You just kind of have to prove it. I think they're going to be the one that will kind of steal that SEC's last bid with the logjam of, State, Ole Miss, and Florida. And then my ACC team is Pitt. So Pitt is on the outside looking in right now. They really didn't have a very strong, out of conference schedule, but they have Georgia Tech and Notre Dame. These are 2 great series to, boost their RPI. And if they win those 2 series, I don't see a world where Pitt stays at home. The only thing that I was kind of worried about with Pitt is looking ahead. I know we had somebody tweet at the show about the American, is if you start having these bid stealers in some of these conferences where a far and away team that we just always assumed was going to win it, they kind of falter there at the end. But if Pitt wins these next 2 series, they go 4-2. I don't see them, being on the outside looking in.
All right. AJ?
Yeah, I struggled to narrow it down to 2 teams.
That was tough.
So, my first thought was looking at the ACC, we've said probably they're the best conference for baseball right now. And you look at some of the conference records, and there are teams that we just kind of assume are going to be in that you could make the argument that if they struggle in these last two series, they're not going to be. And those two schools are Florida State and Georgia Tech. If Florida State loses their last two series, they will finish well under 500 in the conference. Clemson's already 7-14 in the conference. So if they struggle, they're done. And Georgia Tech is 12-13. Yes, they finish at Pitt, but they also play Clemson, who they lost game 1 to. So it's, if Georgia Tech finishes 12-18, they're not in. If they finish 13-17, they're not in. And Florida State, if they finish under 500, it's a question. SEC gets a lot of the benefit of the doubt with their conference schedule. ACC, not as much. And even SEC teams are still having to finish 500 in conference to feel comfortable. So those are two teams who you look at and you don't want to play in a regional. You don't want to have Parker Messick show up game 1. You don't want to have to face Georgia Tech's offense, especially if they're a 2 or 3 seed and you already threw your number 1 guy against the 4 seed. But good overall records. But I think those are two teams, in order to feel good about their chances, they need to finish hot. And if they do finish hot, watch out, because they could win a regional.
Yeah. And like you said, AJ, Florida State, and Jake said Florida, those Florida schools get a little bit of boost every time in the tournament time. So all of a sudden they just get, Florida State, Miami, and Florida always get a little bit extra love when it comes to tournament time. So I think Florida State's just got to handle business, maybe split their weekend series they get in. But that's tough for Georgia Tech. I think that they're right on the edge there, being a good ball club, but they might be out. Like you said, that conference record is just not good enough.
Yeah, they need that series. They need to win a game against Clemson. I think they're up at Clemson. But they need to win the series, if not sweep Pitt, to feel good about their chance. If they sweep Pitt, they're in.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I argue that one.
I don't think Georgia Tech's a team either that you want to face in that Sunday, double elimination where your pitching's all done. I think they're probably one of the most dangerous teams maybe in the country. So if they can get through into the tournament, I really like them as a 3 seed. That's going to be a very, very dangerous regional.
Yeah, and I'm just looking at how Florida State finishes the year. Obviously, they had the heartbreaking loss to Boston College. Then they go to Miami. The Miami comes to them, and then they go to North Carolina. So North Carolina's a team that traditionally heats up later on in the year anyway. Yeah. They don't give games away. Those are two tough series to end at. Plus, they have a midweek against Florida. So it's not like they're going to we've reached the point where teams on the bubble need to win their midweek games.
Yeah. It matters a little bit more this time of year to some teams than it does to others.
Yeah. So Florida State does not have an easy stretch to finish out the year.
Is North Carolina one of those teams that you have in, or do you have them kind of on the outside looking in?
I got them on my bubble, but I'll talk about them after Noah gets to go here. Noah, who you got?
Well, just like AJ, I also had trouble narrowing it down. I ended up coming up with 10 teams, some of which have already been talked about. But I'll take my talents where they are most comfortable. The Big 12, of course, the America's Conference in football and basketball. Definitely the best conference in basketball, not even a debate. Jake, I saw you. But you look at Oklahoma, who's been a team who's just been kind of average all year, but we've all kind of considered them to be, they could beat anybody. They can also lose to anybody. They close out the year. They lost to TCU last night, and then they have West Virginia, and then they have Texas Tech. Teams that are also kind of in that, they're all right category. And losing to TCU isn't going to help when they lose that first game. And they don't really have any crazy wins. We haven't really seen Oklahoma they belong. They were in that I believe it was in Arlington at the beginning of the year where they played okay. They were all right. They were an average team. But that Oklahoma is just so strange. I think they're kind of the epitome of the Big 12 where you wouldn't really be surprised if they beat somebody, but you would, you wouldn't be surprised if they lost. They're just the definition of a vanilla team. And then you have Texas, who I think is in the tournament. I think they're going to be in the tournament, no problem. With that said, they play West Virginia and Kansas to close out the year after the series. They just lost to Oklahoma State. Just got demolished by a very hot Oklahoma State team. But if they lose to West Virginia, which that Mother Nature is taking over, they may not even complete that series, but then they play Kansas, who's awful. If you see that team sputter a little bit, maybe they move towards that bubble. Again, I think that they're a brand that is, no matter what, they could lose out. I think they'll be in. But they are a team that is in a lot more danger than people realize. They have, I believe, 17 losses on the year, which is just insane when you think about Texas. Think, they've lost like 12 games. No, they've lost a lot more than people think. And they really haven't figured out that whole who's starting for us after Friday thing.
No, and they have a doubleheader today too, so that'll be a really great strain on their bullpen. So Occupy Left Field, it's kind of turned into a little bit of a weatherman the past couple days. So he's claiming that the rain will clear up afternoon, so they'll be able to play there. But yeah, just kind of piggyback off that. If they don't win these next two series, that's going to tank their RPI, losing to West Virginia and Kansas. They might not even be a 3 seed. I don't anticipate them at all doing that, but that is something we need to talk about because they did lose to Kansas State.
And West Virginia, it being crappy weather could help them. Because they're kind of a scrappy. They steal bases, they run, they field well. So if they can field well in that weather, and you put the ball on the ground, have people in motion, Texas could potentially struggle to get that offense going in that weather. Because they don't run as much. They don't have speed never slumps. And with that pitching, a couple more errors behind you is not what that staff needs. So it could be one of those things where you look up and West Virginia took 2 out of 3, and it's entirely because of the weather. And we're like, Texas is in trouble. I have said all year, Texas is extremely overrated. They're not what people think they're not what they should be. I'll say that. They have the talent to be one of the elite teams in college baseball, but for some reason it's just not clicking. I don't know whether it's pitchers not feeling comfortable pounding the zone, trying to nibble, and then when they do miss, they miss middle. Hitters all trying to be for themselves like Ivan Melendez. Let Ivan Melendez go be Ivan Melendez. Not everyone on that team needs to try to do what he does. You need people on base, so when he hits a home run or hits a double, it scores runs. It feels very individualistic when I watch them play right now. I don't see much unity. I see people playing for their own stats, which works when you're playing, UTSA or Rio Grande, but it doesn't even work when you play South Carolina. Like, they lost that series, and coming into that series, they probably wrote off South Carolina. And then they go down to College of Charleston, they lose to College of Charleston. We've seen this team be really bad for stretches. We've seen them be really good, but we're waiting for them to click, and they haven't. So at this point, I think it'd be a gamble to say they are going to click at some point.
Yeah, and I mean, they're going in and playing Big 12 opponents who haven't been great this year. The Big 12 has not been a fantastic baseball conference like we've seen in the past where they've had these teams that are elite. Texas was supposed to be the elite team, and they didn't go beat up on people in their own conference, and they struggled down the stretch here. Arms is a big issue for them, and a lot of these teams in the Big 12 play really bad on the road. They are not good anywhere else that's not their home ballpark. I have a hard time believing that the committee is ever going to hold Texas out, but they're going to be a 2 or a 3 seed somewhere, and they're going to really have to find themselves if they want to make a run at this tournament. And I just don't see it. I'm with you, AJ. I mean, I was high on Texas for a long time. I thought with the amount of arms that they had in the bullpen, they would figure it out and somebody would take that lead. Those guys haven't found their roles yet, and it's getting a little too late in the season to turn around and figure out what your role is in the bullpen.
Yeah, and they just don't have the chemistry either from last year, too. That's the thing that I've kind of noticed watching them. Even when they celebrate at second base and they put the helmet on, it all feels very forced and like Pierce is trying to get them to do it. It doesn't feel like they're having a lot of fun this year, as opposed to even, what they were having a month ago. That's the thing for me that's really kind of, made me jump away from Texas, is it's not as easy for them anymore. Whereas, early in the season, it was so easy for them.
Yeah. Yep. So my 2 teams that I think need to win down the stretch, Tulane, Green Wave. I've been big on them. Since April 12th, they are 6-8. They have really stumbled coming down the end here. 9-7 in conference. They're 28, 18-1 overall. They lost last night to Cincinnati in a series that they really have to win. They have Cincinnati, Wichita State, and Memphis left. I say that they got to go 6-2 down the stretch here if they want to have any sort of chance. And, and they might even have to win a couple conference tournament games here just to be able to put themselves a 3 seed now. This last month has just really beat up their RPI and beat up their schedule by not winning those games. 6-8 when you're on the bubble is not good enough to make that tournament team. Their offense has gone out the window. Those guys were crushing the ball early in the season, and they cannot hit right now. They are in a deep slump across the board. So hopefully they can get that turnaround. My next one is North Carolina, Jake. North Carolina is 25-17, 8-13 in conference, which is not good for the ACC. Their pitching has really let them down. Their biggest thing is they are 3-11 on the road. They are not a good road team right now. They're 22-5 at home, which is fine. But when you go on the road and you're playing that bad, they're at NC State, which their game got delayed last night. So I think they're going to try to play a doubleheader today. And then they have Wake at home and Florida State at home. They got to go 6-3 if they want to make this tournament. I mean, that's a tough ball club to say you're going to hold them out. They have pitching and defense, but they have been so bad on the road. I don't know that they're going to do much of anything even if they get to the tournament.
Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially with NC State, that they're one of those teams that you almost just assume that they're going to be always good. Tech beat them, that signature Virginia Tech win for them to take them seriously. But I don't think they're the teams of North Carolina past. They're really not that good. They're not consistent.
Yeah.
I know that the gray Carolina Blues are probably one of the best uniforms, for road. They're probably one of the few grays I like, but there's just no mojo there, I feel like, on the road. They got to do something, maybe skip the continental breakfast, change something up.
I really think their pitching staff is letting them down, not keeping them in games. They have the offensive capability to scrape across some runs, have a couple big innings. The offense is capable of being there. But for me, North Carolina is South Carolina this year. Teams where if you give the offense a pitcher on the mound who they're like, we can keep us in the game for 6-7 innings, then the offense is going to go put up runs. But when you have a guy on the mound who you know is not going to go work deep into a game, especially midweeks getting towards the back end of the bullpen, when they get in, it's like, oh God, we need to score because we're going to give up runs. This puts extra pressure on that pitching staffs just feast on, and you look up and they're putting up 1 or 2 runs a game and giving up 8. And
Yeah.
It looks a lot worse than North Carolina's not that bad. North Carolina's not a bad baseball team, but you can tell they're pressing.
Yeah, and they got a losing record this month because, again, they're giving up runs that they don't normally give up. And it's, if it was defense and you're making errors and stuff behind you, it's not. They're just giving up runs pitching-wise, which is just uncharacteristic. Like you said, they can score 5 to 8 runs a game and be in games, but when they're giving up, 10, that's not good in the ACC.
Yeah, it's been rough to watch because that was a team, as much as I was on Texas, I was off on North Carolina. I had them in my Omaha 8 like 3 weeks in because they were, in the same vein as Virginia a couple weeks in. It was, this undervalued ACC team started off hot. Look at this. Offense is putting up runs, pitching staff is shutting people down unexpectedly. Well, now they're not.
Yeah.
And so it's, what's the real North Carolina team? Can they get hot? Can they just fight their way into the tournament? We will see.
As high as I have been on the ACC, and I know you guys feel the same, the ACC might be better than the SEC this year. It feels like we're talking about a lot of bubble teams that may not get into the tournament here. And that might shift the thought of, well, maybe the SEC was better this year. Or is it just the committee has really put it in our brains that these teams have to play so much better than SEC teams to get into the tournament? I don't know. It just feels frustrating.
It's all the problem when everybody's good. You beat each other, and then you all end up with records around the same. Yeah. And then all it takes is a team like Louisville taking off and winning series, and Miami going to winning series, and Virginia Tech. All of a sudden, those are the clear top 4 teams. And then everyone else is sitting there right around 500. I think the SEC looks similar, but I think the history of the committee picking teams gives SEC the benefit of the doubt and not as much the ACC, when the ACC probably deserves it this year.
Yeah.
you can see the true depth of the ACC when you just look at those bracketologies and you see all these. Oh, look at that good 2 seed. Look at that. How are they a 3 seed? You see how certain conferences are almost undervalued just by projections because we know what it's going to look like at the end. And you just look at this ACC and you see, oh wow, any team can beat anybody, and then you see it in the tournament where I don't really know who's going to be playing in Omaha if this were the bracket, because we don't really have an idea on how to value these ACC teams because they're so looked over nationally. And that's not to say that we're some heroes for looking at the ACC more than anybody else, but it's just a reality where we don't really know how Louisville would play against Texas A&M.
Yeah, we do. And also, you said every team in the ACC, you would pick Boston College to beat Miami.
Boston College just beat Florida State. I would take Boston College against any team in the country right now.
they beat a Parker Messick Florida State.
Yeah, they did.
So
That's
I don't know. I throw it all out the window now after that one.
Completely on me for falling into the Florida State honeypot. That's on me. The state of Florida is full of frauds. I need to remember that.
Well, talking about teams that are close to the edge of the tournament here, getting close to the tournament time for conferences. Why don't you give us a mid-major update here?
Yes. So I really wanted to highlight some of the closer conference series kind of running down the stretch. Wanted to highlight the A-Sun there on the far left. If you notice, I know the numbers are kind of small. We have Liberty a half game up on Kennesaw, Eastern Kentucky, and Jacksonville State. And then Lipscomb and Central Arkansas are both a half game out. So when they're within a game of each other, that's a weekend series. You could be sitting at home. So maybe look for one of those teams that are kind of on the outside looking in, Lipscomb, Jacksonville State, Florida Gulf Coast. One of those 3 teams I think could steal a bid, because I almost feel like Liberty, one of those 2 teams, Liberty and Kennesaw State, is going to be a lock, if not a 2. The other one I want to highlight is the Ivy League here. It's Columbia and Penn. So they will play a 3-game series. So they pretty much wrap that one up. I know Dartmouth kind of has, an outside shot to kind of get in to that playing game. But again, with the Ivy, it's just a 3-game series. I think Columbia is one of those teams that a lot of people have written off. I know after Penn beat A&M, all the Texas fans kind of jumped on their bandwagon. But I think that Columbia might even be a little bit better than Penn right now. They're a little bit hotter. I know Penn took the series, but Columbia is really, really hot right now. And then lastly, we have the MAAC. If you'll notice, there's a really tight log jam at the top of, probably 3 schools you've never heard of. We talked about Fairfield a little earlier in the season when they were playing at the minor league stadiums, but that's another really, really tight one. Marist is kind of making a run there at the end. My Niagara, they were kind of my dark horse there to come out. They're kind of off. And then lastly, wanted to highlight the Ohio Valley, because a lot of people still have DBU as a host, and they are on the outside looking in for that conference. So that'll be really interesting to see if DBU doesn't win their conference, if they miss the tournament entirely or they get an at-large bid. And again, if Evansville, Illinois, Indiana State, one of those teams gets the at-large bid, not the at-large bid, the automatic bid, that's one less ACC, SEC. Another one that we talked about too is the American Conference. That's going to be another big log jam that's going to get really tight here at the end.
Looking at the Southern Illinois Salukis, last year they started off like 30-1 or something ridiculous like that, and then I think they missed the tournament entirely. So that it's just so fickle over there that I do love those teams in that conference. It's a very wild west one, even though it's in the heart of the country.
Yeah, the Indiana State fighting Larry Birds, they're kind of in it too.
I just love looking at this and noticing the teams that, for the people who live and breathe college baseball, when you see these teams in your regionals, you're like, are you kidding me? Columbia is one of those teams. No one wants to see Liberty. Liberty is probably going to be a 2 seed somewhere. But if they continue to play like they are now, they should be a 2 seed somewhere. But even teams like, Jacksonville, they got hot and won the conference tournament last year after being they were substantially under 500. And teams like DBU, no one wants to see a good Ivy League team come out ever, because they're always a 4 seed, and you don't want to get matched up against a really good pitcher who just wanted to go to a smart school. in game one because those guys they can play some real baseball up there. I know it's cold and I know it's kind of,
Well, they
Ivy
do a
League
southern road trip too at the beginning of the year, and a lot of those, Columbia and Penn this year played really, really well against some of these southern teams. So this is not, I know in basketball we kind of always write off some of these leagues, but these are going to be very, very tough regionals. Whichever one gets Columbia, Penn, any of the Liberty ones, that's going to be a really tough regional.
Yeah, I was actually going to say it's probably more similar to college basketball tournament where no one wants to play the automatic Ivy League bid. They can always shoot the three. They can play with anybody. I feel like that's kind of their baseball reputation too. Of they can beat anybody in the game.
Pitching and defense, and they've played a lot of road games. They've had to play their beginning of the season on the road. They're used to going somewhere and playing baseball. It's not a big deal for them not to be at home. Those are big things come tournament time.
Yep.
Yeah, they're anti-Sam Houston. Sam Houston is still yet to leave Texas.
They've played every game in the state of Texas, right?
Yeah, I think I'll have to check and see when they go to Lake Charles, but that's their big road trip is to Lake Charles.
Incredible. And Dallas Baptist, to get to that point, people still have them host. I don't understand who is looking at this and saying that Dallas Baptist should still host. They are struggling. I know they're still going to be a difficult team come tournament time, but they should not be hosting a regional. I'm sorry. I don't care. They shouldn't be hosting a regional.
They're a 3 seed.
Yeah.
They're almost like UConn and Gonzaga, where you almost just pencil them in because you need some mid-majors. That I bet you a lot of people really don't follow DBU, but I mean, if I'm being honest, Gonzaga, UConn, they could be crazy teams that are really good. They could be teams that haven't played anybody good. But I think DBU's kind of, fall into that trap where, they were really good. They have really good strength schedules. So that's why they have all these losses. They really should be a 3 seed, and they're going to get matched up with Texas as a 2.
No,
Texas is gonna be the 3. Texas is going to get lucky again. I've been saying it all year.
I would love to see DBU sent up to Corvallis. What do you think, Mark?
I'd rather not, but send them here this year, sure. Why not? On Jake's point with the Gonzagas and the UConn, UConn hasn't played anybody. I don't care what anybody says. I don't think UConn's going to be a great team. I don't think they should host. Gonzaga has played some teams. If you go back and look at their schedule, they've actually beat some very good ball clubs. They're going to be, in the top 25 here. So I'd be fine if they get a host, but UConn should not host. They haven't played anybody this year. Yeah, it's a good feel-good story up there, but they shouldn't host. They should be a 2 seed somewhere.
Yeah, UConn is completely fake news, and then their best player, Reggie Crawford, hasn't pitched at all this year, so they could be even better. But still, no, they play high school teams.
I wish they were still in the American. That would be a very, very interesting American conference going forward if UConn was in it, because Tulane, ECU, Houston, and then throw in UConn. That would be a very good one.
Jake, not to put you on the spot here, but how are our friends at the New Jersey Institute of Technology looking this year?
They're down. I know that they're not leading their conference. Actually, Maine, I had them in my notes, has won 14 straight. With Stony Brook eliminated, Maine is up 7 games, so they've clinched at least a share of the conference tournament. So look for the Maine Black Bears. I'm not really sure how many Black Bears are in Maine, but that's their mascot. Look for them to kind of be a very dangerous 4 seed too. But the flip side of that is they have really just kind of dominated it, so they could get the Central Michigan treatment where they've kind of been lulled in. Sean put a comment about NJIT. They're on the outside looking in here. They got a lot of work to do going forward.
Well, I have them penciled in as a regional host.
Well, if they do a regional host, we might have to do an in-depth analysis of their field.
We might have to do an in-depth travel to New Jersey.
Oh, man.
Courtesy of Jake's dad's wallet.
They might be more corrupt than Qatar hosting the World Cup if NGIT gets a host.
Yeah. Home of the fighting Mike Trouts, right? That's where he went.
I know they probably don't play on top of a building, but I feel like NJIT Stadium is like on top of a parking garage because there's just no space in Jersey.
So like Miami is next to a parking garage, NJIT is on top of it.
Actually on top of it.
Yeah.
They built it on a concrete jungle there. All right, Alex, what do you got for bets for us for the week?
Well, good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Barstool Bets has continued to let us down on the betting lines, but have no fear because DraftKings is here. DraftKings has us covered this week, and I don't know who they have that makes their betting lines, but I don't think they watch much college baseball.
Are you
which
insinuating
is great for us.
cocaine?
What was that?
Are you insinuating that DraftKings does cocaine?
It's possible, you know.
You know what they say? Money won is better than money earned. So let's go. Show us how to win this stuff.
So if I was actually in a state that allowed mobile betting, like I was last week, I would put this into a 3-pick parlay. But I'm not, so I won't. But my picks this week, so I got Georgia and Vanderbilt. So they actually have Georgia as the underdog in this game, which I find very surprising. So I just went ahead and decided I'll take their money and take Georgia in that game, especially with Jonathan Cannon on the mound today. And then Georgia Tech, Clemson. They've got Georgia Tech as the underdog. So I decided I'll go ahead and take that, take their money from that one as well. I mean, I know Clemson won the game last night, but you're not going to keep those Georgia Tech bats down all weekend, and they're just going to outscore Clemson. And then I'm also going to take the over in the LSU-Alabama game. So Saturdays have kind of been LSU's kind of bugaboo on pitching, and not really sure who the starter is going to be this week. Usually it would be Blake Money, but rumor is he's not getting a start this week after only going about 2 innings last week. So we'll see. So I'd expect a lot of runs, and plus Alabama's park is absolutely tiny. So I expect the ball to be leaving the yard early and often today.
Yeah, as long as Alabama's throwing a right-hander to start against you guys, then I think that over is like a must.
They are. Their lefty goes on Sunday.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Throwing that right-hander against you guys on a Saturday, that over's a must. That's gonna be some runs there.
So LSU's trying to win the series today.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
the lefty gets on the mound, and who knows?
Exactly.
Can you imagine how much Parker Messick would carve up that LSU lineup? Like,
I don't want to. I mean, it would be just like Hunter Barco did, with Florida. I mean,
Cooper Jerky or Parker.
Yeah, I was gonna say Cooper Jerky.
Cooper Jerky or Parker Messick in that series. That'd be.
Yeah, that's like my nightmare in a regional or super regional.
Like I said,
have Florida State come to Baton Rouge in a regional. That would be terrible.
Some people are lining it up where these picks. I'm telling you that they want LSU to have to travel to Oregon State in that super. I'm telling you that if that's what they're trying to line up, they really want that to happen.
I'd rather face Oregon State in a regional than a super, because at least in a regional, less likely to see Cooper Jerky.
That's fair.
Nobody loves narratives more than the committee. They pretend like they don't, but what a coincidence! Every time they can make one, they have one.
Yeah.
Same
we didn't look at it that way. Bullshit.
Yeah,
you definitely set it up to be that way. Just don't even lie to us. Just do it and just be like, hey, this is what we want to see. It's in front of your face now. Don't lie to me. Oh, we didn't look at it that way.
It's A&M versus the Little 12. That's how they always set it up. So it'll be now that Texas sucks. It'll probably be A&M, TCU, Texas, and Texas State. That'll be our regional.
As I recall,
I think they'll send Texas to Baton Rouge.
I would
Texas
love that.
and LSU. That's what I think they're going to do.
TCU and A&M always played in those supers, and I'm pretty sure TCU cleaned up pretty well almost every time.
Yeah, they always did.
Well, guys, we did get a couple of questions in for our Q&A, so I'll throw the first one up here. How about Robert Moore last night for the Hogs? Is big hit Bob back?
He needed that badly. That team needed that. You could see the entire team just when he hit it. It was like they finally could breathe. It was, I don't know if he's back, but in that game, where he didn't feel like 8 even was going to win it. I think just having him come through in a clutch moment like that and him putting those runs up on the board and finally getting that big hit for the first time, feels like all season, was huge. I don't know if he's back, but Arkansas is going to feed off of that. I I think they roll for a little bit now.
Yeah, I think that was the adrenaline shot that Arkansas needed to get going here before the tournament. I think that made them feel a lot more confident, especially when their dude Robert Moore is doing that. That can lift you going into the rest of the season here. And if he is back, then look out. Arkansas is going to be tough.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. That after that Jalen Battles 3-2 walk, I felt like that's gonna be a point in the season that Arkansas kind of looks back on because they have been down for so long. And I know Sean's been their biggest critic this entire year, but I think this is where we kind of see Arkansas roll, get hot again. Because I know we've always talked about, is Arkansas for real? But that Jalen Battles walk was really big. Do want to comment on Auburn's choice of hats last night. I think the white Auburn logo is atrocious and just needs to be removed from all marketing that Auburn does. It's terrible.
Well, I did tweet in the middle of the week that I guaranteed that Arkansas would win the series, so I was really excited to see them win Game 1. It's time for Auburn to kind of tail off. Auburn baseball fans are starting to exist, and that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So
I feel like they exist to just like yell that Tennessee is unclassy.
yeah. That's all they've been doing all week.
So how many SEC teams have a legit chance to make it to Omaha?
Well,
Oh, man.
as
I'll
SEC
go
fans-
2.
All the way to Omaha.
Two? Wow.
2. No,
I think it's more than 2.
I think Tennessee and Arkansas are going to be the only 2.
Well, LSU has a legit chance.
Yeah, I think
depending on their matchups.
That's what I was going to say. I think LSU is right there, too. So I got Tennessee, Arkansas, LSU.
Auburn and A&M wouldn't surprise me if they got to Omaha either.
Don't say it.
Does anybody-
Don't put it out there. They're
I
not
just
going.
think
Georgia?
only 3 make it, though. I think it's hard
Georgia.
for 4 SEC
There it
to
is.
get there.
Credit AJ. I heard a dog barking, and it's the Georgia Bulldogs. They're coming to Omaha. They're already penciled in. Written in stone. Georgia will be playing in Omaha in 2022. Thank you.
Did
No,
you
you're
get
gonna
4 or
hate that.
3?
They're not a team that I would pick, but to say they don't have a legit chance is a lie. Like it is. Again, we just named, I think it was 6 teams. 6 aren't going to make it. Like
Yeah.
there are only 8 teams that go to Omaha. But for those teams that have a chance, I mean, we didn't even mention Vandy.
Nope.
Like,
No.
I mean,
I don't think Vandy's going to Omaha this year.
No,
But they have a chance. I mean,
Right.
like, if we're talking about chances,
I don't
But I
think
think-
they're not even going to host. I mean, I don't know. I don't see them.
I
I
know,
wouldn't say
but
they have a legit chance.
But I was saying we're not even giving teams like that credit. We're talking
Mhm.
about like legit contenders who you put in and you trust them to win almost any regional. None of us would be surprised if Georgia wins their regional. In fact, we think they should. It depends who they see. They could get Georgia Southern and Georgia Tech and whoever thrown in there. But
Mercer.
Mercer.
yeah, that'd be rough.
Yeah.
But I think the answer is 6. I think there are 6 teams who legit could make it to Omaha.
I'm good with I agree with you. I think 3 make it for sure. I think 3 is the number, and you could be looking at a 4th if they play really well, but I think 3 is the number that gets there.
I really want Georgia to go just so Noah can have a new hatred for Georgia fans because they're awful. I went to a game there. They bark at like kids, like opposing kids.
Yeah, you're like, where's the bathroom? And they go, "Arr, arr, arr."
Yeah.
Wait,
They,
they
it's
bark
like
at
Tiger
kids?
Bait,
just
except
like
they
that.
harass people. Tiger Bait's
Oh.
like funny. It's
I
like,
might have to go get a Georgia Bulldog hat. If they bark at kids, I'm all about this.
Yeah, why would I dislike barking at children?
Now you're
That'd be-
making me like them.
I'm a Georgia. I just bought more stock in the Georgia baseball program. But I will say, the more I watch them play, the less confident I am in their ability to win games. But I do like their upside, and I would love to see Georgia and Omaha, especially if he's going to be barking at other people. Oh my God.
yeah, Noah's gonna paint up and wear the shoulder pads.
Yep. I ordered one of those spiky mohawk things and a dog collar, so I'm halfway there.
Wait, you guys don't already own dog collars?
Awkward.
No, I sold mine. Their session got tough.
Oh man. So the question here: are the pretenders for regionals in Omaha being weeded out here late in the season because they simply are getting tired of the grind when even good teams' weaknesses are being exposed?
Is this a shot directly at Ole Miss?
I don't think anybody at any point in the last month has thought Ole Miss is going to be.
No, there's
yeah.
one person.
I also don't think there's anything as an unfair shot at Ole Miss right now. Like,
I thought it was Vandy. Vandy's kind of the one that I was thinking.
Ole Miss might even make Hoover.
Now, we all know who Derek Sessions is trying to target here, and it's the University of Texas Longhorns. And you know what? He's right. Derek has been a huge anti-Texas guy all year, and here we are now talking about Texas may be a bubble team. We're getting close to that. So congratulations, Derek. I'm sure the Sessions family will have a big party at their lake house, wherever you guys reside. Congratulations, AJ. Have fun.
my dad listens to me, apparently.
Yeah.
It's glad that almost 25 years into this life, I'm just now figuring this out. But no, I don't know if people are getting weeded out more so than we're kind of reaching crunch times, and either the teams that need to step up just are or aren't. And a lot of it's matchup based right now. Like, if you need to win 2 series, you don't want to have to go play LSU and A&M to go win those 2 series. Like, and going into the year, people were like, okay, that LSU series is going to be tough, but we can take that A&M one. And it's just not turn out like that. A lot of the teams in the West were like, oh, we don't want to play Ole Miss or Mississippi State. We'd rather play Auburn and A&M. Well, that's flipped on its head. So, yeah, I think teams are tired. It's been a grind, but it's been a grind for everybody. I think we're just finally reaching the point where you can finally start weeding people out due to resumes.
Yeah, your weaknesses are kind of getting exposed here.
Boston College is an excellent baseball team. They have a few tough losses, including Austin P off the top of my head.
I hate Boston College. They're Boston College University. Like, are you a college or university? Like, pick.
My favorite moment in Boston College history is when that basketball player was asked about his favorite moment at Boston College after he went winless in conference play for, I think, the second year in a row. And he was like, going out to eat was his favorite part.
Boston College history is just Doug Flutie, and then it's guys being dudes. That video that their coach made. Like, nothing else happened between them.
Well, there was the Mafia whole thing for a couple
Yeah,
years.
but that was before, I think.
Oh,
And they
okay.
got Matt Ryan too. He's a
Oh yeah, they
Boston
had
College
Matty
guy.
Ice.
I mean, Jake, I thought you'd be all over Boston College. That's 2 schools at one place. I figured.
I know. They're too
Wow.
pretentious for even my taste. Yeah, they're like Creighton on steroids, Noah. They were like,
did quarter zips and even during the summer months, huh?
yeah. Well, it doesn't get too cold in Boston, so they got the quarter zip.
The thing with Creighton fans is that they all return to being Nebraska fans once basketball season ends, so they can take the quarter zips off.
Someone wore a Celtics jersey to the Boston College game. Like, it wasn't even the right sport or the right level.
They
They
probably
were
did not.
That sounds like Boston fans to me.
I go Sox.
Ugh. So Sean thinks Kendall Diggs is the new Charlie Welch for Arkansas.
Hard to
Apparently
disagree.
people are talking.
Yeah, when Kendall Diggs drags his nutsack all over the state of Nebraska, then we can really say so. But for now, yeah, it's looking like it might be that way. But it's just never start him. You can't bring him in because Charlie Welch was only good off the bench.
I like it better when Arkansas is bad, just so we can egg on Sean. That's what I've kind of noticed. Sean's a fun person to egg on.
Well, he does it
you
himself too. So
Yeah.
All right, guys, we have reached that time in the show where it's time to talk about how I'm the best at pick'em. So I went 9-1 last week to take the top spot. AJ had another good week. Had a good week. He's catching up. He's right on Mark and Noah's heels. They're 5-5 stretch.
Oh, I'm stuck in the 5-5 doldrums. It's killing me. I'm getting out
AJ
of it
needs
this
to
week.
stop being on the show because he always shows out.
I've missed 2 weeks, and both weeks I've gone 7-3.
Well, I guess the moral of the story is AJ is fired.
I
You can
resign.
still send your pick.
Resign.
Let's get Derek in.
I think it's a happy coincidence that the guy who we send the picks to and makes all the graphics and keeps score is the one who's now leading.
Like my grandpa always said, a good scorekeeper never loses.
That's right. Exactly. Oh, man. So this week, first game, we got Rutgers and Maryland. Everybody's taking the Terps except Jake. I found that surprising.
The fighting Tony Sopranos are going to rise up. There'll be lots of, New York slices after they win this series. They actually are leading Maryland in the standings, so I didn't think it was going to be that unpopular of opinion to pick the number 1 team. I'm trying to see if they won last night.
I'm looking it up right now.
They don't play till they play
Doubleheader
Saturday,
Sunday.
Sunday, Monday.
Doubleheader
What?
Sunday now.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Oh, they changed it to doubleheader Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay. Because, they had it set
Sunday,
up for
Monday.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a big Mother's Day for all the Jersey moms there at the Maryland game. I like Rutgers in this series. I know Maryland. I don't really like Maryland because I still hold a little grudge when they came down and messed with the state of Texas early in the season. But in all seriousness, I really like Rutgers. They bang the ball around the yard. They really don't make a lot of errors. They're just kind of that consistent New Jersey team that you need. I'm sure that's never been said about New Jersey baseball.
Yeah.
Stony Brook and NJIT. I think Stony Brook's in New Jersey. Might be in New York.
They're
I
New
think
York.
it's in New York.
New
Or
York.
it's really the same state.
Either way,
one state.
They just blend
we don't,
together.
we don't need to hear anything about Stony Brook. That name never needs to be uttered.
Well, Alex, I think you're in business because I think they are a banned from the postseason since they're transitioning conferences.
Sweet.
Even better.
Oh, man. All right, so next up we got Auburn and Arkansas. Apparently I was the only one that has any faith in Auburn.
I just think that this is the get-right series for Arkansas heading in, and then after that win last night, I don't see how they don't win one of the next 2 for sure. This Arkansas team is going to get hot at some point, and it looks like it's now, right before tournament time, so look out.
Yeah, you knew that Arkansas was going to heat up because the entire Arkansas fan base really fell apart. This was a fan base that if you had said them like when they were actually kind of just like an average team at the beginning of the year, even though, it kind of just felt like they're an average team, but they were a really good team. The fans were like, we're still going to be winning the national championship. You know that, right? Like, you're okay. You're like the 6th best team in the country right now. Nobody's really saying that, but okay. But now they lost one midweek game, and all of a sudden the world was ending for these Arkansas fans. I do live on Arkansas fan Twitter, so I definitely prescribe to it. So then I said, you know what? Arkansas is going to go ahead and win. I thought about saying they'd sweep. It does help when I did make a promise to never pick Auburn again. But, yeah, give me Arkansas, and I'm sticking with it. They're going to sweep them.
I do want to applaud Auburn. That atmosphere last night was really, really electric with the lights. I didn't think Auburn had that in them from a college baseball standpoint. Because the reason I picked Arkansas over Auburn was I would have rather them hosted a regional, and I feel like that's what these 2 teams are kind of playing for here. But in all seriousness, I think Arkansas just has too deep of a lineup when you compare it to Auburn's pitching, and I think Arkansas has the upper hand against pitching. And I think Sonny goes cold. That's my bet of the month. I think Sonny goes cold.
That's a hot take.
That is a very hot take. I hate it when people are doing too good.
Yeah, I picked Arkansas because all of a sudden they found themselves trying to cling on to the SEC West. They might not even finish if they struggle here. With A&M and LSU right behind them. Before last night, Auburn was right behind them as well. We've kind of penciled them in at the top of the SEC West, and Tennessee is the top of the East. And Arkansas has to fight to hold on to that. So, they're not going into this going, we're a better team. They're overrated. No, they're going in knowing the series is going to be a dogfight. And I think this is their, like Mark and Noah have said, this is their get-right series.
I just have too much faith in Sonny D. That dude is an absolute beast.
The transfer.
I mean, his on base percentage is close to 600.
Yeah,
it's insane. This deep in the season to have an on base percentage that high. I mean,
in the SEC.
Yeah, like
as a transfer too. So that's I think the even crazier part of the whole thing is he's doing this as a transfer. So it's almost like he's a freshman in theory.
Yeah, it's his first time playing SEC ball.
Yeah, and he's just absolutely crushing.
Jake, no Oregon. You had them picked to win the Pac-12. You don't even have them picked to win this series.
No. Well, if you remember correctly, I said that they were going to get it because Oregon State had the tougher schedule. So I thought Oregon could sweep going out, and that Oregon State would, lose one of those games. But no, I'm wearing the Beavers jersey.
Yeah, you got Beavers on today. I don't know. I mean, I'm looking outside right now, and it's still raining, so it hasn't stopped raining here in Oregon. I think it's going to continue to rain. I think it's going to be a tough game today. It's 6:00 start tonight, so I'll see y'all there. And it's going to be raining. I think that Oregon State just has too much. I think that they've shown it this year. They've really shut down Oregon. They've given up 3 runs now in 27 innings against Oregon, and it's just been completely one-sided on the pitching.
We have to stop picking Oregon State because I think every time we pick them, we all unanimously go with the Beavers. So we all just get the winning percentage up.
It's like Tennessee. Like, that's what every time Tennessee's been on there, we've all picked Tennessee. So
hard
maybe
to pick against them right now.
Maybe Tennessee should have been on here this week.
Well, we would have all lost it.
Yeah.
Mark, how close do you live to Goss Stadium?
I'm an hour and 7 minutes away.
Oh, geez.
So it's an hour south of me here. I am moving at the end of the month, so I'll be closer. But yeah, I'm an hour and 7 minutes north of it here.
Yeah, but Oregon hour different. That's close. Like for all the people who aren't from Oregon, that's like a 10-minute drive because Oregon's so spread out up there.
It's true. It is not that bad. It's a nice little drive down Highway 99. Me and some country folks just heading on down.
Hey, at least you don't even have to pump your own gas.
It's true. I just pull up and it's pouring rain. I'm like, hey, you high school kid, here's my card. Go do the thing.
Now, quick, Mark, with the gas, I've been getting half tanks recently just because it's like an investment plan. Like, it's got to go down eventually. I don't want to invest in this high price point. Can you tell the kid when to stop?
Yeah, you just tell them how much you want to put in.
All right.
But I just fill it up every time, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a full tank of gas, but I get 55 miles a gallon in my Corolla hybrid, so I don't even worry about it.
So you fill up once a year.
Yeah, it's gorgeous for me. I'm like,
surprised you don't have an electric car.
I was like, I'm going to go down to Corvallis. I'm going to head over to the beach. I'm going to head up to Washington. I'll come back home and still have just used a quarter of a tank of gas.
Well, no, you have to root for high gas prices because that's how my dad pays for all these, College World Series trips is the high gas prices.
Oh, okay, great.
In the best logo game of the week, we got UC Santa Barbara, the Gauchos versus the UC Irvine Anteaters.
Oh, this is electric. Wow, I'm blown away. This was kind of an easy pick for me. I think that Irvine has been struggling lately, and I don't think they can come back and win this series. It was good to see SB win that game last night.
Yeah, I picked Irvine for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. I wanted to see the Anteater logo. I wasn't sure that anybody else would ride with it, so I knew that I had to be the hero. AJ, welcome aboard the Anteater train. I will say that I do kind of want to see more of this UCSB logo. That is a very cool kind of spooky logo. But yeah, and then my second reason was I tweeted out that I'm investing in UC Irvine, so had to roll with them right away. Would love to see them squeak out a couple wins here, but mostly the Anteater logo is just so cool. I need that on a shirt or something.
I legitimately looked up the logos for all of these games and then made my picks based off of logos. And when I saw the Anteater, I was very much like Noah. I was like, we need this. We need to be able to show everyone this. If Alex doesn't use this logo, then I'm changing to UCSB.
Dude, the Angry Anteater, it's a classic.
So I think UCSB can clinch this weekend if Cal Poly, the things kind of fold their way. But This was a really easy pick for me. So I thought I would just tell y'all what a gaucho is it's basically like a spicy cowboy. So
spicy cowboy.
It's a spicy cowboy. So I'm rolling with the spicy Cowboys.
Wow.
There's no way being an Oregon State fan I'm ever going to pick Irvine, so.
I know. I'm glad we don't have any Louisville fans. We can all pick, UCSB.
I'm glad you dropped that Sam Cohen reference. I was really hoping to see Louisville and Omaha that year just because I thought they were the best team in the country, but instead we got Shane Bieber. Shout out to UCSB.
I remember that bat flip too. That probably wouldn't even make like a top 10 bat flips of this year just because of how crazy all the bat flips have been. But at
Could
the
you
time,
imagine if it
oh, that
landed
was
in,
monumental.
Yep. Could you imagine if it landed in Tennessee's dugout?
Oh,
Or-
geez.
Near it. Near it.
never touched home
If it hit the
plate.
netting.
It would have been like Brian McCann.
Tony
Oh, man.
Vitello would have met him at home plate.
So we got a clean sweep for my Tigers this week against Bama. They took game 1 in a close game, 6-5 last night. But like I said, I think the ball is just going to be jumping out of the yard today, and LSU just rolls.
Yeah, I think it's just way too much offense for LSU today. I don't think Alabama had to win the Friday night game. This series is over. I don't see a way that they keep LSU from scoring, 10 runs today.
I was really tempted.
go ahead, Noah.
I was really tempted to pick Alabama, but just because I think LSU is playing a little bit above where they actually should be. But yeah, LSU easy. Did I see that Connor Prelip was back for Alabama?
No, you're not that lucky.
Nope. All right. Well then, yeah, luck in LSU.
So this was supposed to be the spot that was going to be reserved for our Texas Tech hate, but Texas Tech decided to take the week off and throw off all our scheduling pick'ems. So this one was a really easy one for me. I don't see a world where LSU loses this series. They just have too much to play for. They're too hot. Trey Morgan is just going to be too much for them. And Alabama's almost one of those teams that you got to kind of worry about sitting at home for Hoover if things go the wrong way for them.
Yeah, I mean, this was a little tougher of a decision for me than it was for y'all because 2 weeks ago Alabama was the top 25 team, and now they've kind of fallen off. This is the weekend where it's, either they batten down the hatches and hold it down, or you're looking at them going home. So I thought that maybe this was the weekend that Alabama could, kind of just hold the door. But there's nothing I couldn't pick against LSU coming into town in that ballpark. It's just a bad matchup for them.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think LSU has a legit chance to sweep them, depending on how they do against their left-handed starter on Sunday.
Well, that was my thought too. Like I said, I looked it up and I thought, okay, Friday Alabama has to win because they have a chance winning Sunday throwing the lefty, but it's over.
Yeah. All right, so we got Texas A&M and South Carolina. AJ rolling with the homer pick.
Yeah, well, I swear this is why I have worse records when I'm on this show, is because I only have to pick South Carolina when I'm here.
So you're saying if you weren't here, you were going to take A&M?
I'm saying I'm saying this game's only on here because Jake and I have a little bet on who wins this game or not, or who wins this series. But I mean, South Carolina got doors blown off game 1, but they don't do well in game 1s. They have a bullpen game 1, which always confuses me. But Noah Hall, who's been arguably one of the best pitchers in the SEC in this, at least the second half of the year, goes game 2. Will Sanders, the best pitcher talent-wise, goes game 3 for South Carolina. Series isn't over, as much as A&M probably feels like they're just going to walk in the rest of the week. As much as you can put up 16 runs in the first game, I like to say, how many times do you see a team put up 16 in game 1 and then 1 or 2 in game 2? And then you're kind of like, what happened? So
Yeah.
If this was any team besides South Carolina on South Carolina's level, I would pick A&M just because they're so hot, playing at home in front of that environment. But go Cox.
Yeah, this one was pretty easy for me. I think the only one that kind of scared me was last night with Dittmer because I feel like Dittmer's just pitched so good. It's almost like a pencil him in. We got this one. So that was the only thing that really worried me. But A&M's offense, I think, is just too hot right now. And when you have a hot team, you ride that team. I don't really see them as an Omaha team, if I'm being honest with you. I know that probably all my A&M people are going to, get shade at that. But I think that they're just hot right now. I don't think they're a good team still. They're just hot.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting to see Jake pick A&M. I know you normally do not. That shows great confidence in me. I got word of that, so give me A&M. I don't know if South Carolina is going to be a tournament team or not. They're just so strange. I would like to see him pick up those few more wins so we can get AJ in, but I would also like to see Mark Kingston fired. So
You just want to see Scott Wingo hired. That's what you want.
that is what I want.
Yeah, it's not as much as you want Kingston fired. You want Wingo
Yeah,
hired.
nothing against Kingston. I just can't.
Yeah.
He can't help who went to school before him.
Yeah.
All right, so next we got Ole Miss, Missouri. Everybody picking Ole Miss.
This is do or die. They literally have to win these series coming up to even get in to the SEC tournament. So if they can't go and beat Missouri, they don't deserve it anyway. So I figured I have to take Ole Miss. There's no way they go and lose this series. They can't. Really, they shouldn't even lose a game here, and then they'll still be in trouble if they lose even a game down there. So I got Ole Miss, though.
I think Missouri doesn't belong in Hoover. It's always kind of weird and out of place when they are there. So that was kind of the difference for me. Is, I think Ole Miss's Baby Blues belong in Hoover, and whatever weird shade of gray Missouri throws out there every week deserves to, start looking for, Cape or Alaska reservations or wherever you spend your summers. I don't know where you go. I'm not a big Missouri guy.
I think they go to the Ozarks, right? Right now?
Yes, they do. They love the Ozarks down there. But you know who else loves this time of year? Ole Miss. They're going to get hot, and we're going to be talking about them playing in a super regional. Get ready for it. If this isn't the beginning, we are in it. We are in the middle of this incredible run. They're going to be making 30 for 30s about Ole Miss going from 0 to playing in a super regional. Mike Bianco is going to be signing the extension in a couple weeks. This is history that we're watching unfold in front of our eyes. You guys are going to gather up and tell your kids about this run someday. The Rebels are playing the super regional, and it starts now. Thank you.
But not Omaha, right?
No.
So that's your line.
So Noah, what's the what happens if they don't, huh?
Well, what happens if they don't is that I don't talk about it again. So
Yeah,
No,
Noah's all about making guarantees, but not putting anything behind it.
Nothing on the line.
Guaranteed Arkansas would win the series.
and
Nothing if they
here I
did.
am. Wow.
No faith then.
I have people that just kind of come up to me and say, "Can you give me life advice?" And I worry that if I start parlaying those with, "Oh, if I'm wrong, I'll do this," because it opens up the opportunity for me to be wrong, which would be the first time ever. So
No, there was that one time where you thought you were wrong, but you were mistaken.
Oh man.
Speaking of wrong,
Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think there's any way OU wins this series. TCU's a much better team than OU.
Yeah, last week I took TCU to win the Big 12 in the mediocre 12, I guess.
The little 12, that's what we call it.
The little 12.
The little 12. TCU should win this, no doubt. Oklahoma has been playing some good games. They're right on that bubble, but it's TCU. TCU's got to win this.
I just want to hear the logic behind Noah's pick.
well, in the preseason in my bold predictions, I predicted TCU to win the Big 12. So I'm almost hedging my bet. With that said, I think TCU is the most fraudulent team in the country. So give me Oklahoma. And you know what? They blew it game 1. That's fine. We didn't want game 1. Last night I opened up YouTube and I typed in Boomer Sooner repeat for 10 hours, and I fell asleep to that. And I woke up to it too. So Boomer Sooner, let's go. We're going to take the next 2. We got this.
Did you say fraudulent or fraudulent?
Frog, yeah. Frog.
That's what I meant. That's all those shirts.
Oh man. All right, so we got Georgia Tech and Clemson. Clean sweep for the Yellow Jackets of Georgia Tech, but they had a rough one last night.
I really thought I thought someone would pick Clemson. I can't. Just
Yeah.
I can't.
Understand.
But it's at home. Clemson needs this series. I thought this would be, Georgia Tech has trouble getting consistent starts on the mound. I thought someone would pick Clemson. But it's a combination of I got a buddy who pitches for Georgia Tech, and I hate Clemson with the fiery passion. So
I thought this was a game or a series where both these ball clubs needed it. And I thought Georgia Tech would come out with a little bit more fire, being as I thought that they were the better team. and they need this series just as bad, if not worse, than Clemson does to get in. And I was really surprised last night. So hopefully they can come back and get the next two, but I really thought Georgia Tech needed the series more.
I believe in Georgia Tech here. Clemson wasn't going to get me 2 weeks in a row with these little upset wins. I think Georgia Tech's bats are just too strong. I know their pitching is kind of terrible this year, or maybe not as good as, in years past, but they hit the ball so well. They have really good approaches. They, really get on guys early and make you, use your bullpen. That was kind of the difference for me. Is I just think Georgia Tech is going to be, too strong of a team. They're kind of what everybody expected NC State to be with, I'm trying to think what my dad called Tommy Tanks. He called him something funny because he can't field. God, it's gonna come to me in like an hour, and it was really funny.
Speaking of Tommy Tanks, we got the clean sweep for NC State. Nobody has any faith in the Tar Heels, huh? Nobody wanted to see that logo again.
Well, it's such a shame that they are bad because we don't get to see that beautiful ram anymore. But yeah, they're bad.
I like this logo more.
This is another one where you're talking about two teams that really need this series to kind of get their season on track and be able to make a tournament. And I have more faith in NC State's bats than I have in UNC's pitching right now.
So I had a buddy who went to NC State, and he was telling me that NC State is like the A&M of the ACC. So that was why I was kind of going with them here. Well, hold on, let me explain it, Alex. So little brother mentality, but maybe have a little bit better history than older brother with UNC. Often overlooked. Maybe not bad, but never really elite. So they were kind of saying that that's like, if you were going to compare teams, is NC State is the A&M of the ACC. So that was kind of the difference for me. Throw it away tanks. That's what it was. You called them throw it away tanks.
Oh, man. All right, well, that concludes the show. Any closing thoughts, guys?
Do we think Tennessee comes back?
One at a time.
Mark, you bat lead off.
I was just saying I hope this rain stays off because otherwise it's going to be another cold one for me down in Corvallis tonight. So go Beavs.
Yeah. Do we think Tennessee comes back? Do we think it's one of those rain delay things? Offense kicks in and they steal game 2?
Yes.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm going to say no.
Go Roadrunners. Going to be at the UTSA Marshall game. Gonna check out their stadium in person, see what it's all about. I had somebody call me out when I had their hot dog early in the season that it was good, and someone said it was bad. So gonna have a hot dog review coming at the UTSA stadium. So we'll see how it goes. I'll try and get some pictures so y'all can see how awful their stadium is. I think it goes maybe 6 high in terms of rows. But calling it now, they're gonna win the Conference USA over Southern Miss.
Yes,
I said it a couple weeks ago. I'm going to hedge my bet. I'm going to go see the greatest team in Conference USA this year.
All right, yeah. Can you take a video of that hot dog review and make sure that the masses can see it?
I will. I'll even, get some condiments on there because I know that sometimes condiments are lacking. But if they have the single serve packets, we're not doing that. They got to be fresh.
Yep.
All right, guys, and
that the UTSA Roadrunners will not be serving you fresh condiments. But we'll see.
I know. They will hear about it. My dad knows a very good lawyer.
Oh, that's typical.
Oh, man. All right, well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Don't forget, we have our College World Series ticket giveaway going on this weekend. So make sure you post your picture of your Hawaiian shirt. And if you're watching this, make sure you take a picture of you watching this with your Hawaiian shirt for double entries.
And Hawaii baseball does count. We did clarify that one on the Twitter. So if you have any Scotty Scott memorabilia, any, rainbow waves, that'll count.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.